Jonas Hawley stood alone on the cold metal platform of the spaceport. He kept his shoulders tight and his hands hidden in the pockets of his old coat. His heart beat slow and heavy, like an old machine struggling to start. He was an aging human, a man who had lived through war, through storms, through hard seasons of farming. And today he felt every year sitting on his bones. He stared at the sky where the alien transport ship would arrive. People around him waited for their own passengers with excitement. But Jonas only felt fear. Fear that the woman coming to meet him would see him. Truly see him and regret everything, he whispered to himself. I should never have agreed to this. His voice cracked from years of shouting in battle and shouting over loud farm tools. He touched the old scar near his neck. He could feel its rough edge through his collar. That scar came from the war. Another ran across his ribs from a farming accident. His hands shook because of an injury that never healed right. He hid them quickly, ashamed of how weak they looked. Why would an alien woman want an old human like me? Jonas wondered. He had signed up for the Interspecies Companion Program because the nights were too quiet and too cold. He had not expected a match, but the system approved him. And an alien woman named Lyra of House of Eluan agreed to come live with him. He knew she was younger, stronger, and from a noble family. Why would she not turn away the moment she saw him? The sky above the spaceport flashed with blue light. A deep humming sound filled the air. The transport ship slowly descended. Glowing like a falling star, Jonas felt his stomach twist. He lowered his head and turned slightly away. He could not let her see his face yet. What if she looked disgusted? What if she asked to be sent back immediately? The ship landed with a soft thud. Steam hissed from its sides, clouding the platform. Passengers began stepping out, tall aliens with smooth skin. Bright eyes and graceful movement, Jonas watched from the corner of his eye. His heart pounded harder with every passing second. He searched for her without really wanting to find her. He felt like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, one push from fate, and he would fall. Then a figure appeared through the steam. She was not human. Her skin shimmered like silver mixed with soft purple. Her hair floated slightly as if touched by invisible wind. Her eyes were bright, warm, and curious. She carried no fear, no judgment. She walked with calm steps. And she was beautiful far more than Jonas expected. Jonas felt panic rise in his chest. He turned away fully now. I can't face her, he whispered. I look old enough to be her grandfather. He kept his head down. His breath caught in his throat. He wished he could disappear into the ground. Then he heard soft footsteps nearing him. Another step, another. He froze completely. A gentle voice spoke behind him. Human. Why are you hiding from me? Jonas swallowed hard. He did not answer. He felt his cheeks burn with embarrassment. His legs trembled from nerves, he thought. She must already know I am too old for her. He tried to speak but only managed a broken whisper. I did not expect you to arrive so soon. The voice came closer. Warm and soft. It is an honor to meet you, she said. He heard no disgust, no disappointment, only kindness. Jonas gathered the courage to turn around slowly. His eyes met hers for the first time. Her expression was gentle, almost glowing with compassion. She looked at him, not at his wrinkles, not at his scars, not at his shaking hands, but at him as a whole person. Still, Jonas panicked. He bowed his head and muttered, I am sorry. For my age. For how I look. He felt ruined. Broken, unworthy, he waited for her to step back. To judge him, to feel regret, instead. She stepped closer. She reached out a hand. Her fingers brushed his sleeve softly. Human, she whispered. Lift your head. Jonas slowly raised his eyes. Her gaze did not change. It was gentle, calm, steady, she said. Why do you hide your face from the one who came to share her life with you? Jonas could not speak. His entire world paused in that moment. He felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. And then she whispered, "So tell me, Jonas Hawley, why are you ashamed of the life you survived?" Lyra stepped closer to Jonas, her soft silver-purple skin glowing under the spaceport lights. She looked at him as if she was studying something precious, not something damaged. Jonas felt his chest tighten, because no one had looked at him like that in many years. Not since before the war, before the farm injuries, before loneliness became his only companion. She spoke gently. "I am Lyra of House Valuan, and I traveled many stars to stand in front of you." Jonas lowered his gaze again, embarrassed by his shaking hands and tired face. He whispered, "You shouldn't have come. You don't know what you agreed to." Lyra tilted her head slightly, confused but patient. "I know enough," she said. "I asked for a human with a brave past." Jonas flinched at the word brave. Feeling unworthy of it, Lyra reached out her hand. Slowly, so he would not panic, her fingers brushed the rough fabric of his coat sleeve. Jonas froze, unsure if he should pull away. Her touch was warm, gentle. "Steady, nothing like he expected," she said softly. "Your message said you worked the land and survived 2 wars." He nodded weakly, wishing he had hidden that part. She whispered, "How can you think that makes you unworthy?" Jonas tried to smile, but it broke halfway. "I am old, Lyra. I am not strong anymore," he said. "My back hurts every day, my hands shake. My scars scare people." He lifted his hand slightly to show her the tremors, but instead of stepping back, Lyra moved even closer. She held his hand gently, steadying it without judgment. Her eyes softened as she studied the scars and age lines. "These are not signs of weakness," she whispered. "These are the markings of a survivor." Jonas felt heat rise behind his eyes. He pulled his hand back quickly, embarrassed by the emotion. But Lyra did not let him escape completely. She simply stood there, patient, waiting for him to breathe again. The spaceport noise faded in the background, as if the world respected their moment. "Come," Lyra said gently. "Let us walk." He nodded and began leading her toward the exit. His steps were slow, careful, unsure. Lyra walked beside him with graceful movements. Her eyes kept drifting to him, not judging, but observing with quiet interest. Jonas broke the silence first. "You must be disappointed seeing me," he said softly. "I am older than the profile picture." "The camera made me look younger," Lyra blinked in surprise. "Human years and Valuan years are different," she replied. "You look exactly as you should for someone who lived your life." Her voice held no sarcasm, no pity, only sincerity. They walked past glowing alien plants along the road. The night air was cool and mixed with gentle alien scents. Lyra seemed fascinated by every small detail, the lights, the machines, the sky, but she always returned her attention to Jonas. It was as if she was searching for something deeper inside him. "Why did you come?" Jonas finally asked. His voice trembled, but not from age, this time from fear. Lyra stopped walking and looked directly into his eyes. "I asked the council for a human who had lived a hard life," she said calmly. Jonas almost laughed, thinking she was joking. But she continued, "On my world, young faces mean little, but scars mean wisdom." Jonas stared at her, unsure how to respond. "No one ever said that to me," he whispered. Lyra stepped closer again. "You hide your scars as if they are failures," she said. "But to me, they show the story of a man who never gave up." He tried to speak, but the words died in his throat. Lyra watched him quietly, patiently, waiting for him to accept her truth. Her eyes were bright with sincerity, not pity. Jonas felt something shift inside him, something he thought had died long ago. They continued walking, but this time he did not look at the ground. He walked straighter, even if only by a little. Lyra noticed immediately and smiled softly. "You see," she whispered, "you are stronger today than yesterday." "And I only just arrived." Jonas felt the beginning of something he had not felt in years. A small spark of pride, a small spark of hope. Lyra moved closer until her shoulder almost touched his. "Let me learn your story," she said. "Every scar. Every memory." Jonas inhaled deeply, overwhelmed by her kindness. As they reached the transport station exit, Jonas looked at her again. There was no fear in her eyes. No regret, no disappointment. Only a steady warmth that seemed ready to stay. And for the first time, Jonas whispered, "Maybe you won't regret coming here." Lyra smiled gently. "I already do not," she said. "I chose you, Jonas Hawley, not the age of your skin." Jonas led Lyra toward the old transport vehicle waiting outside the station. He walked slowly, careful not to trip, hoping she would not notice the stiffness in his knees, but Lyra noticed everything. And she watched him with quiet curiosity instead of judgment. When he opened the door for her, she gave him a small nod of respect that made his chest tighten. No one had treated him like a gentleman in years. The ride to his farm was long and silent. Jonas kept both hands on the steering bar, hiding how the vibrations made them shake. Lyra looked out the window, fascinated by the strange human landscape. Her eyes sparkled at every hill, every cluster of old houses, every flock of night birds flying overhead. But every few seconds, she looked back at Jonas as if trying to understand him piece by piece. Jonas felt that gaze every time. He kept thinking, "Any moment she will see how poor I really am." He was not a wealthy farmer. He had no modern machines, no fancy home, no easy life to offer her. What would she think when she saw the old wooden house with broken tiles and squeaking doors? Would she regret everything the moment she stepped inside? When they finally reached the property, Jonas stopped the vehicle and waited. Lyra stepped out slowly, letting her eyes scan the land. The small field stretched behind the house, rough and uneven from years of hard work. Old tools leaned against the barn, rusted from rain and time. The windmill creaked with every gust, ready to collapse someday. Jonas felt shame burning in his chest. I know it is not much," he said quietly. Lyra turned toward him with a calm expression. "It is peaceful," she replied. "I like peaceful places." Her tone was sincere, not forced. Jonas did not know how to respond. No one had said something kind about his home in a long time. Inside the house, Lyra walked slowly from corner to corner, touching objects with gentle curiosity. Not disgust, she touched the wooden table, the old blankets, the cracked window frame. Her fingers traced everything, as if she was studying the life that lived here. Jonas followed behind her nervously. He wanted to hide so many things: the old boots near the door, the faded photos on the wall, the broken mirror cabinet, and especially the drawer where he kept his war medals hidden away. But Lyra noticed everything with eyes that never judged. She paused at the small shelf with a single glass cup. "This house feels lived in," she said softly. "It feels real." Jonas swallowed, unsure if it was a compliment or not. When she entered his small bedroom, she stopped. The bed was neatly made, but the blankets were worn from years of use. Lyra touched the fabric gently and smiled. "You keep things with care," she whispered. Jonas looked away quickly, too embarrassed to answer. As she walked out of the room, something caught her eye: a half-open drawer, with a small metal shine peeking out. She reached out, and before Jonas could react, she pulled it open fully. Inside lay the war medals he had hidden for years. Shiny, scratched, dented, each one telling a story he never wanted to relive. Jonas rushed forward, panic rising instantly. "No, please don't touch those," he said. His voice breaking, he grabbed the drawer and tried to close it. But Lyra placed her hand gently over his, stopping him. Her eyes did not fill with fear or judgment. They filled with something deeper: respect. She lifted one medal carefully and studied the worn engraving. "You earned these," she whispered. "You fought for them." Jonas felt his throat tighten painfully. I don't want anyone to know, he said. Not anymore. Lyra's brows lowered slightly. Why hide proof of courage? She asked softly. He looked away and whispered. Because it also reminds me of everything I lost. Lyra placed the medal back and turned to him. Scars on the body and scars in the heart do the same thing, she said. They show where you were broken and where you healed. Jonas said nothing. Because he had no words left. No one had spoken to him like that in decades. No one had looked at his pain without pity. No one had seen his past without fear. Lyra held his shaking hand again, steadying it with both of hers. Her voice softened even more, human. Let me learn your story. Every wound, every memory. Every storm you survived. Do not hide from me. Jonas felt something inside him loosen. A knot that had been tight for many years. He nodded slowly, still unsure, still afraid. But her presence made him want to try. For the first time in a long time, he did not feel completely alone. And as the quiet night settled around the house, Lyra whispered the words that echoed deep in his soul. Show me who hurt you. Jonas Hale. Jonas sat on the edge of his wooden chair. Staring at the drawer Lyra had opened, the metals inside glowed softly under the dim lamplight. Each one felt heavier than a mountain. Lyra stood nearby, calm and patient. Waiting for him to speak, she did not rush him. Did not push him, did not judge him. She simply let the silence breathe between them. Jonas exhaled slowly. His voice felt stuck in his throat. For so long he had avoided thinking about the wars. And now an alien woman he had known for only a few hours stood ready to listen to everything he spent a lifetime burying. He took a deep breath. You want to know who hurt me, he whispered. Lyra nodded gently, her silver-purple eyes shining with quiet understanding. Then you must listen to things I never wanted to say again, Jonas said. He reached for the first medal, turning it over in his hand. It started when I was young, he continued. I joined the service because I had nowhere else to go. The memories returned slowly, like old ghosts crawling out of the dark. At first, I was proud. Proud to protect my people, he said. But pride does not survive war. Lyra stepped closer but remained silent. Jonas continued. There were battles no one survived except me. There were friends I watched fall right in front of me. There were nights I slept with my rifle on my chest because I did not know if dawn would come. His voice cracked. Lyra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Steady but soft. He didn't pull away this time. He felt her warmth anchor him to the present. The second war took everything left of me, Jonas whispered. It aged me faster than time ever could. My back broke under the weight of carrying the wounded. My hands shook after every explosion. And they never stopped. He stared down at his trembling fingers with bitterness. These hands used to be strong. Now they betray me. Lyra knelt beside him, meeting his lowered gaze. Hands that saved lives do not betray you, she whispered. They remember what you carried. Jonas felt something inside him fracture. A piece of the wall he had built around his heart began to crumble. He wrested the metal back into the drawer and pulled out another. This one was bent on one side. Scratched deeply on the front, he held it tightly. His eyes lost in a memory decades old. This one, he murmured. I despise. Lyra's voice was soft. Why? Jonas swallowed hard. It was awarded the day we won, but winning cost me my entire team. They called me a hero. But I felt like a survivor of something I should not have survived. A tear slipped down the side of his cheek. He wiped it quickly, ashamed, but Lyra reached out and caught his hand mid-motion. Do not hide tears, she whispered. They are not shame. They are release. Jonas looked at her, surprised by her words. Her voice carried no pity, only respect, and respect was something he had forgotten the feeling of. He took another breath and continued. After the wars, I came here. To this land. I wanted quiet, I wanted peace, but peace is not easy. He gestured around the small house. The silent fields outside. This place is all I have left. And even this. He sighed. Even this is falling apart. Lyra stood and walked slowly around the room. She looked at the tools, the old furniture, the worn blankets. Then she turned back to him. You built this life with broken pieces, she said. That is strength, not failure. Jonas shook his head. You don't understand, he whispered. I am not the man I used to be. My body hurts every morning. My back refuses to straighten. My hands tremble. My face is lined with age. And I am ashamed of it. Lyra stepped closer. Until she stood directly in front of him. Her voice lowered to a tender whisper. Jonas Hawley, she said slowly. Your scars are not signs of weakness. They are proof that you lived through what others could not. He felt every word sink into the deepest part of him, for the first time in years. Someone told him he was not broken, not useless. Not old beyond worth, but alive. Lyra took his hands gently in hers, not caring about the tremors. She steadied them with her warmth, and she whispered the words that reached straight into his wounded heart. Your scars mean you lived. Jonas closed his eyes. And for a moment, the war inside him finally stopped fighting. The next morning arrived with a sharp, heavy wind that shook the old house. Jonas woke before sunrise, his body aching from yesterday's memories and the long talk with Lyra. He moved slowly, feeling the familiar stiffness in his back. But something inside him felt lighter, a soft warmth resting beneath the pain. Lyra was still asleep in the guest room, curled gently under a blanket like a quiet beam of light in his dark home. Jonas stepped outside and felt the cold wind hit his face. Dark clouds gathered above the fields, swirling with strange colors. A storm was coming strong, fast and dangerous. The kind that could destroy his crops in minutes, and crops were all he had to live on. He grabbed ropes, tools, and wooden stakes. Determined to protect what little he owned, he whispered to himself. Just a few more minutes before it hits. His breath came out in tight puffs of cold air. The sky rumbled like an angry beast waking from sleep. Jonas moved with urgency, tying down the crops, securing the fences. Bracing the windmill, every movement sent pain shooting through his spine. But he ignored it. His land needed him. And he was used to pushing past pain inside the house. Lyra woke and heard the roar of the wind. She hurried to the door and saw Jonas struggling in the field against the rising storm. Her heart tightened instantly. Without hesitating, she ran outside. Jonas! The storm is too strong. She cried, but the wind swallowed her voice, tearing it into pieces. Jonas looked back briefly, giving her a weak smile. Go inside. He shouted, I have to finish this. But Lyra refused to move. She could see how his arms trembled, how his back bent painfully with every tie he made. She knew he was pushing himself far beyond what his aging body could handle. The storm hit full force. Rain slammed into the ground like falling stones. Wind twisted the branches and tore at Jonas's coat. He planted one last stake into the soil when a sudden wave of dizziness washed over him. His vision blurred, the ground beneath him tilted. He tried to stay standing, but his legs gave out. Jonas collapsed into the mud. The cold earth swallowed his hands. His knees, his chest. Pain exploded through his back, sharper than anything he had felt in years. Rain poured over him, soaking his clothes, chilling his skin. He couldn't move. For the first time in a long time, he felt truly helpless. Jonas! Lyra screamed, running toward him. She dropped to her knees beside him, her clothes instantly drenched. Her hands cupped his face, lifting it gently from the mud. He blinked slowly, barely conscious. I'm fine, he whispered, though he could barely breathe. Lyra shook her head fiercely. No, you are not fine, she said, her voice breaking. You should have called for me. He tried to smile. I didn't want to trouble you, he managed weakly. A mix of anger and heartbreak shone in her eyes. "You are not a burden," she whispered. "You are never a burden." With surprising strength, she lifted him onto her back. Her alien muscles flexed easily despite the storm raging around them. Jonas felt embarrassed, but he was too weak to protest. Lyra carried him through the rain, her steps steady and sure, inside the house. She placed him gently on the bed. His clothes were soaked, his skin cold, his breathing shallow. She covered him with blankets and knelt beside him, her worry growing deeper. "Jonas, open your eyes," she whispered. He did, slowly, her face hovered over him, full of fear and tenderness. "Why do you push yourself until your body breaks?" she asked softly. Jonas looked away. "Because this is all I have left, and I have to protect it," he said. Lyra reached for his trembling hand and held it tightly. "You do not have to face storms alone anymore," she whispered. "I am here now." Jonas felt warmth spread through his chest, not from the blankets, but from her words. She stayed beside him the entire time the storm raged outside. She wiped his face, checked his breathing, kept his hands warm in hers. She didn't sleep, didn't leave, didn't look away hours later. When the storm finally calmed, Jonas opened his eyes again. Lyra was still sitting there, still holding his hand, still watching over him. Her hair was messy, her clothes dirty, but her eyes were gentle and full of devotion. Jonas whispered weakly, "You should rest." Lyra shook her head. "I will rest when you are safe," she replied. And as he lay there, weak and exhausted, Jonas realized something he had refused to believe for years. Someone cared for him, not for what he used to be, but for who he was now, old, scarred, hurting, yet still worthy of being loved. Jonas woke slowly, his body still aching from the storm. The world felt soft and blurry as his eyes opened. But the first thing he saw was Lyra sitting beside him, her hands gently wrapped around his, her eyes tired but bright with relief. She had not left him for even a moment, and he felt the truth of that in her warm grip. "You are awake," she whispered, her voice soft with emotion. Jonas tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Lyra helped him sit up carefully, placing a pillow behind his back. Her movements were gentle, as if she were afraid he might break again. He whispered, "You didn't have to stay all night." Lyra looked at him with a mixture of frustration and affection. "I stayed because you needed me," she replied. "You risked your life in that storm, and I will not let your body face the cost alone." Jonas looked away, embarrassed. "I've lived my whole life alone." "Lyra," he said quietly, "no one has ever stayed for me like this." Lyra moved closer, her expression soft but firm. "Then let this be the first time," she whispered. Jonas felt a weight press on his heart, not the kind that crushed him, but the kind that came from truths he had avoided for too long. He shook his head slightly. "I'm old. I'm worn out. I'm not strong like I used to be. I don't know why you bother with someone like me." Lyra reached out and touched his cheek with gentle fingers. Her skin felt warm, soothing, calming. "Jonas Hale," she said softly, "strength does not leave with age. It changes shape. You survived more storms than most humans can imagine. You lived through war and through loneliness." Jonas swallowed hard. He wanted to believe her, but doubt was an old and stubborn shadow in his mind. He whispered, "But look at me. My hands shake. My back hurts, my face is lined with age. I can barely do half the work I used to do." Lyra leaned closer until their foreheads almost touched. Her voice lowered, warm and steady. "You think these things make you lesser," she said. "But to me, they make you real. They make you brave. They make you someone worth choosing." Jonas blinked, startled. "Worth choosing?" he repeated softly, as if the words didn't belong to him. Lyra nodded. "Yes," she whispered. "I chose you." He looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of pity or obligation. But he saw none, only sincerity, only care. only a deep affection he had never received before. Jonas felt tears rise but fought them back. "My life has been full of failures," he said weakly. "I lost friends, I lost battles. I lost time." Lyra tightened her grip on his hand. "And yet you kept going," she said. "You kept standing. Even when everything tried to push you down." She brushed a wet strand of hair from his forehead. "You carry pain with dignity," she whispered. "You carry scars with honesty. You carry a heart that still feels. Even when it hurts." Jonas closed his eyes, overwhelmed. He had lived so long believing he was broken, but now for the first time, someone saw his broken pieces and called them strength. Not shame, not weakness, strength. Lyra leaned back slightly, studying him with tender eyes. "You asked why I came," she said gently. "I came because I wanted a partner who understands life. A partner who knows loss but still chooses kindness. A partner who is not afraid to love. Even if loving hurts." Jonas opened his eyes slowly. He whispered, "Do you think I can be that partner?" Lyra smiled. "Warm and steady, you already are," she said. He took a deep breath, tears slipping down his cheeks. He did not hide them this time. Lyra brushed them away softly with her thumb. "The universe gave me a human with a heart strong enough to survive storms," she said. "And gentle enough to hold mine." Jonas felt something inside him shift. Like a locked door finally opening, like a long winter ending. Like sunlight finally touching ground that had never felt warmth. He whispered shakily, "Lyra, I don't know how to be worthy of this." She shook her head gently. "You don't have to be worthy," she whispered. "You just have to be honest." Jonas nodded slowly, his voice trembling. "Then let me start now," he said. "I want to try. I want to learn how to live again." Lyra squeezed his hand softly. "Then I will teach you," she whispered. "And we will face every storm together. And for the first time in so many years." Jonas felt something powerful rise inside him, not fear, not shame, but hope. The storm had passed, leaving the land quiet and washed clean. Sunlight slowly spilled across the farm, touching the wet soil and broken branches. Jonas sat by the window, wrapped in a thick blanket, watching the morning light settle over his world. His body still ached, but something new pulsed inside him. A quiet strength, fragile but real. Across the room, Lyra moved softly, preparing a warm cup of broth with careful grace. Every movement she made carried the same gentle intention. To help him, to steady him, to stay with him. When she placed the cup in his hands, Jonas held it with trembling fingers. Lyra sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "You should rest for a few more days," she said softly. Jonas nodded, but his eyes stayed on the land outside. "I will repair the damage when I can stand again," he whispered. Lyra shook her head. "We will repair it," she said gently. "Together." Jonas turned toward her slowly. The word "together" settled deep in his heart. He had lived so many years thinking survival meant facing everything alone. But now there was someone beside him, someone who didn't leave, didn't judge, didn't tire of his pain. Lyra reached for his hands, resting them between both of hers. "You fought storms all your life, Jonas Hawley," she whispered. "Let someone fight with you now." He lowered his eyes, feeling emotion gather in his chest. "Lyra, you deserve someone younger," he murmured. "Someone stronger. Someone whole." Lyra gently lifted his chin with her fingers until his eyes met hers. Her gaze was warm and steady. "You are whole," she said firmly. "You are more than whole. You survived enough for 10 lifetimes. Jonas felt a tremor of disbelief. He had never been spoken to like this. Not by anyone. Lyra moved even closer, the silver hue of her skin glowing softly in the sunlight. She placed her forehead against his, a sacred gesture from her people, a sign of trust, devotion, and unity. "Jonas," she whispered, "on my world, scars are honored. They are stories carried on the skin. They show where a person has walked and what they chose to stand against." She held his trembling hands tighter, Your scars mean you lived. Jonas closed his eyes, letting her words wash over him for a moment. The years of shame fell away like pieces of old armor. He felt lighter, almost younger, not because his body had changed, but because someone finally saw him not as damaged, but as worthy. When he opened his eyes again, Lyra was still there, still holding him. Her smile was small but full of warmth. "Let us build something new here," she said softly. "A life for both of us." Jonas hesitated, fear whispering inside him one last time. "What if I fail?" he asked quietly. Lyra shook her head. "Then we fail together," she said. "But we will rise together too." Jonas felt tears forming, but he did not hide them. Not anymore. Lyra brushed a thumb across his cheek. Her touch was soft, steady, comforting. "It is all right to feel," she whispered. "It means your heart is still strong." Later that afternoon, when Jonas stood outside again with Lyra at his side, the land looked different, not because the storm had passed, but because he no longer faced it alone. Lyra studied the broken fence and the fallen branches. "We can fix this," she said. Jonas nodded slowly. "Yes," he replied. "We can." They worked together for a while, Jonas guiding her on human tools, Lyra lifting heavier pieces with ease, her alien strength turning difficult tasks into simple ones. Jonas found himself laughing softly at moments he didn't expect, and every time he stumbled, Lyra caught him without hesitation, not with annoyance, but with tenderness. As the sun began to set, Lyra stood beside him, watching the sky turn gold. Her hand slipped quietly into his. Jonas did not pull away this time. He held her hand firmly. With a newfound courage, he whispered, "Lyra, thank you for choosing me." She looked up at him with soft eyes. "And thank you, Jonas Hawley," she replied, "for surviving long enough for me to find you." The last light of the day touched their faces, and in that warm glow, something unspoken passed between them. A promise built not from youth or perfection, but from survival, acceptance, and the strength to begin again. Together they stood there, side by side, two souls shaped by storms, two lives ready to grow into something new. And Jonas finally understood the words she whispered from the moment they met. His scars did not mean he was broken. His scars meant he lived.